What is up, everybody? It is time to get this M20 out of the E30. So it's the day after I just pulled it in, or it's the same day, but I'm actually not really gonna be doing much today. I listed all this stuff up for sale, and I have a few people that need stuff. Zach needs some stuff, so I'm gonna rip off the things that he needs. He needs like the throttle body and some of the exhaust. So I'm gonna rip those out. Nothing interesting to film there, and then it'll come back probably a day from now or the day after next and go through the process of getting this thing out. Right now I just gotta pull off some stuff to sell, and then we're gonna get going from there. But this is the last time you'll be seeing the M20 complete in this engine bay. It really is a shame. This was a good looking motor and it had a lot of maintenance done. You could see, I mean, brand new radiator, which I get to keep, which is a good thing. A lot of new parts on this, so it sucks, but it's getting a better motor, so I'm excited. I got my sheet laid over the roof because I have a bad habit of stacking stuff on cars when I work on them, so I might as well protect this paint. But we're gonna dig right in. So it's been over a year since I pulled an M20, so it's been a little while, but the exhaust is already off. So this car, like I said in one of the old videos when I first got it, was actually manual swapped. And in that doing, I guess instead of pulling off the whole exhaust, they just cut it right there. So it had like sleeve clamps on it. So all I had to do was do that, and then the whole header part came out, which is nice. So technically the motor's already separated from the exhaust, so I don't even have to worry about that. But I'm pulling it out with the trans. So I gotta get the guibo and the drive shaft out and stuff. And I think I have to pull off the rest of the exhaust, but that's easy. It's just a couple brackets. So that was a nice little plus there. On top of that, you guys know the drill, forward opening hoods, gotta pull the hood off. And then from there, I'm gonna have to kind of go through and look. Like I said, it's been a while. So obviously motor mounts. I don't know what I'm gonna do about the AC. That's the one thing I'm kind of struggling with, is I'm not gonna run AC with the M50, and this isn't the compressor I would run anyway. But you know, I don't know if it has AC in it, and I really don't want to blow up an AC line in the garage. So I'm gonna try to leave it intact for now, and then we'll see later on down the road what I do. You know, maybe I'll pull it out, and then I'll, you know, play the risk of seeing if it's full, you know, by tapping this line. I'd imagine it probably is empty. Most of these are at this point, but don't want to play any risks in the garage. So alright, so we got the hood off, and I put all the hood hardware back where it belongs. The one thing that's going to be tricky with this build, well, not really tricky, but that I'm going to try to pay close attention to, is remembering where I'm putting all my hardware, because I'm going to be using a mix of like E30 hardware and then the M50's hardware. And I want to make sure I keep everything in track, like ground nuts, like for all this terminal right here. Miscellaneous stuff. I just want to make sure I'm keeping everything intact. So hood is off. So now I think
a few moments later,
drain the fluids, probably drain the radiator, pull the radiator out, and then power steering and stuff from there. So I'll decide how I want to time-lapse stuff, because some of the stuff you won't really be able to see, so it probably won't be any fun to watch. But I'll see you guys when I figure out where I'm going to put this camera. Man, I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is a struggle. I've never pulled an E30 M20. I've pulled an E28 M20, which is a little bit different. But when I'm used to doing M50 E34s, where I have the entire process down. I'm like sitting here like looking at what I think I should disconnect. You know, most cases I'd pull the harness off before I pull the motor off. But I think in this case, I'm just gonna leave the harness on the motor. I remember that's how I pulled the E28 one, because a lot of the routings are like way deep under here, and they're all over the place. And these manifolds are a pain in the ass to get out in the car. So my plan is to just leave this on. So I'm probably just gonna disconnect the harness from all the outer like posts. There's a lot, it goes all over the engine bay. It's all, there's no form to this, no pattern. But so right now I'm kind of just working on random stuff. I'm gonna pull out the cruise control cables, and then I'm trying to right now get the charcoal canister out because it sits over the motor mount. And then from there, I'm just gonna honestly undo the motor mount. There's a ground right there. Undo that motor mount, get underneath, start the trans stuff, and then you know, look from underneath and see what's still attached. But this might be a case of just kind of hooking it up, yanking it, and seeing what gets caught, and then going from there. Obviously the power steering stuff I gotta undo from the pump, but from there I think these motors are so simple that I'm like sitting here thinking that there's a bunch of stuff I gotta do, and in reality there's not. So, oh yeah, the AC as well I gotta do, but that looks like it's just on like 2 bolts that I can get to from the bottom. So we'll see. I'm kind of just going at it. I want to set up a time lapse, but I don't want to have like a 45-minute long video of just time lapse of stuff that you can't even see being done. I try to keep it so that you guys can actually see what's happening. The radiator's out. From there, it's a bunch of little stuff that you guys probably won't even be able to see. So I'm kind of being conservative with the filming right now. So I got the power steering unhooked. I got the AC condenser off the motor. I forgot about the oil coolers, so I got those lines off the motor. I got the motor mounts undone. Now all that's left is to pull the ECU out and do the trans stuff. And I'm pretty sure that is everything that is actually connecting an M20 to the engine bay. Pulling motors, if you've never done it before, of course it's a very taunting task and it sounds like a lot, but it's actually pretty easy because you're basically just looking at everything you see that's connected to the motor that's connected elsewhere on the car, and you just unattach it. So that's why when you do it once with one car, it's pretty much universal for everything else after that, because I mean, when you understand the components, you know, power steering, electric, harness, you know, blah blah blah, but it's not that difficult. So I've been looking around basically to find everything that's connected, and I think I've got almost everything. But now I gotta pull the ECU out, which I believe goes right through there into the glove box. Unattach that, pop the grommet out that pulls the harness, and then I gotta undo all the power distribution blocks, the ground and the power. And yeah, so we're getting there. It's actually pretty quick, pretty easy on these cars. Alright, I got the harness disconnected from the ECU, pulled out of the firewall. So you can see here, when the stock M50 harness is in there, it should be able to reach in there, but people say to use the E36 one because you have a longer connection. But worst case, you just let the M50 ECU just kind of hang in there because it's inside. And then somehow got to reach, there's 2 grounds on the M50 harness. Well, we'll get into that later. But everything I think on the top is about done. I just got to unhook this reservoir hose. And then we're going to get underneath here and start pulling off some stuff. I got to finish off the exhaust. There's like 2 brackets holding it on. And then we're going to disconnect the drive shafts and all that jazz. I don't know who did this manual swap, but it's missing like half the bell housing bolts. You can see literally right here, 1, 2, 3 are missing. And then this is the drive shaft, the guibo nut. Completely loose, literally finger loose. So that's not great. This one's tight, this one's tight, but one of them was loose. But other than that, everything else down here looks pretty good. I should probably do a CSB and a guibo, but I'd imagine they did that with the manual swap. The CSB seems alright. It's got some play, but it doesn't look horrible. The guibo's got some cracks, so maybe I'll replace that, but I have time to decide on that. I'm gonna get this drive shaft out of the way, undo it here, and then undo it here so I can move it, and then I'll do all the shifter clips and all that random miscellaneous stuff, and then pull off the trans brace, and we're all set. Last time I tried to pull an M20 with the trans with all the shifter linkage attached, I bent the hell out of the shifter linkage. So just do yourself a favor and unhook it from the trans before you pull it. It's less stuff to get caught up, and you don't want to break your linkage. Stainless clutch line, that's pretty nice. I also forgot I gotta take the slave out of the trans so you don't rip your clutch hydraulics all out. But slave looks replaced, the line obviously replaced. All that was probably brand new when they did the trans swap. I'll get a better look at all that stuff, but the trans definitely needs a rear seal. I gotta order that, see how big of a pain in the ass of a job that is. But once everything's out, then we'll give everything the once over. Very good. Had to call in some backup for the shifter clip here. So I just ran to Harbor Freight and got myself a load leveler because I never had one, and I think this will make it a lot easier getting this in or out. I got Hugh here helping me, my assistant. So everything's disconnected, everything's ready to go, I think, except for the rear heater hoses. The only struggle is figuring out where we want to hook the M20 because there's one spot in the front, but the rear doesn't. So we're gonna have to get creative and hook it around the manifold or the exhaust manifold, intake or exhaust, and then well, we'll get creative. But the reason I got a load leveler was because unlike E34s, E30s suck, and they don't have a center core support that can come out. I think they're what, welded?
Yeah.
Well, because that's a bolt, but down here is, yeah, that's welded. Yeah, so these are welded to the car, which sucks. That's why M50s are so nice to pull out an E34 because you can just pull them forward.
Even if you tried to take anything apart, you'd probably break the bumper.
Yeah, and then I'd probably destroy the bumper, destroy all the headlight stuff. So that way all this crap gets to stay in place, but it makes it harder to take in and out of motors. AC.
Staying in the car.
Staying in the car. I unhooked it from the engine. I'm letting it dangle. I'm gonna make sure there's no AC in the car, and when I pull it out of the garage, and then, you know, if there's no AC, then I'll strip all the AC stuff out since you can't run this anyway. Alright, so we're getting stuck up. There's this weird bracket that comes off like the trans that was getting caught on the subframe, so we got that, so now we're able to get it more forward. I just undid the 2 heater valve lines, so now everything should be disconnected from the car and it should be ready to pull. Load leveler's kind of putting in work here. Don't really understand how to operate it, but the chains are safer than the ratchet strap I was using, like I mentioned in the last video. Although I'm worried that we're gonna run into issues with the garage door. The garage door looks like it's gonna kind of get in the way because of all this extra length here, whereas before it wouldn't be that much. So kind of worried there, but I guess worst case, I'll lower the front of the car off the jack stands, and that should give us more clearance. I think we'll be all right. I pulled an E28 motor like that and didn't hit the garage door, so hopefully all is well. Else we're gonna have to completely like scrap this. She's out, and I don't think there was any engine bay casualties.
What the f is that?
That was that happened from the previous owner. That guy, I think, railed something.
Show him the oil pan. That's probably how that happened.
Well, I've showed you guys this, but that's my JB weld. But yeah, she's out. Oh, we actually get a better look at the hole right there. I'll show you guys all that when I disassemble this thing. But I would 100% recommend you guys spend the money on a load leveler. It's like 32 bucks after a coupon, and it made this. Honestly, I don't think the motor would come out without the load leveler because you have to level it really high in the front to clear the core support, and then when you pull it forward, you gotta then flatten it back out to get the trans out of the tunnel. A lot of help, but this Harbor Freight one is really annoying because this thing that you have to spin on is literally plastic or rubber, and it just comes off. So that's pretty tiring and pretty annoying, but other than that, it actually is a great tool to get a motor out. I don't know why I've never had one before, but we got the G260, the old M20 out, and now we have nothing left but an engine bay. So I'm super excited. it's always awesome to see kind of your project vision becoming closer and closer to the vision. It's nice. I'm happy seeing this thing with no motor. Motivating. Now it's ready to just take that M50 in there. Pulling that M20 went a lot quicker than I thought it would. I thought it would be like a whole big deal, but it turned out that it actually didn't even have that much stuff, you know, hooking it up, and everything came out pretty well. It's obviously goes into the, like, what car you're the car you buy, right? So working on a rusty old E34 is a huge pain in the ass because everything's so hard to get out. But this thing, everything came out pretty easily. Motor came out easily. Like I said, load leveler was the total move. $35 that, I mean, I would spend every day of the week if I had to get these engines out. But yeah, so next up on the list is relocating this booster. One of the things I'm probably most concerned, most worried about, and most dreading, just because it's a lot of, well, I don't want to have to take out all the brake fluid. I don't want to have to bleed my brakes. So I'm hoping that I can get this all away from the firewall without, you know, draining all the fluid and stuff. So look, we'll see how that goes. But that's the one thing that, you know, I got to do a lot of, you know, measurements, make sure everything's precise, get some stuff fabricated for it. So I'll go into depth on that when I get there. Other than that, trying to get this AC out and then probably clean everything up in here. And that's about it. And then I think the motor's ready to go in, get the mounts on it, and then cleaning up the M50. I got to refresh it, put all the gaskets in. So a lot of work ahead of me. This was arguably probably one of the easier parts. The next couple videos are going to be the more in-depth stuff, the more stuff that's more work for sure. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one. We're going to be getting going on this thing. Super stoked. I will see you guys in the next video.